Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead, and today I want to walk you around the Potager garden for the first official time, and I want to talk about something that I think is really important in every garden. Can you believe that in just a month from now, this entire space will be planted and starting to grow, and I cannot wait. I mean, the roses, the blueberries, everything in my garden, all of the perennials that we're planting, all of the annuals that are to come. Spring is here and I'm so excited, but I want to set the stage for something that we're going to be doing every week here in the next couple of weeks, really, which is taking you on garden tours and showing you my space and showing you what I've planted, what's growing, kind of updating you on some of the things that we've done together, like building this garden from scratch. So today I want to do that. So I'm going to start here at the front of the garden, and we'll end in a space that I want you to help me make special. So let's do it. All right. So our first stop is actually, so you guys know, we've been working on finishing up these beds and getting them filled. And it's been somewhere between it's been a while. And mostly because we have the kids here usually when we're walking in the garden. I have the luxury today of being child-free in the garden, which is not something that I get very often. So I'm trying to enjoy it and get the most out of it. But this garden bed here is the one that on my original plan, I had planned to do tomatoes on all 6 of these 6-foot beds here in the middle. And I was going to do brassicas and root vegetables and like leafy things over in this 15-foot bed to my right. But like all good things, we had to change it up, mostly because that bed is one of the last beds that we built and it's not ready yet. I still need to mulch it and I need to add compost, so it's like just not ready yet. So I needed to get my lettuce in the ground, and I wanted to plant some beets. I'm late for beets, but I wanted to get them in the ground anyways. So I used what I had, and this 6-foot bed was ready, so I planted in it. And so about a week ago, I planted I didn't plant tomatoes. It's one of those days. Happy Monday. No, I planted lettuce, a couple different varieties. I planted some spinach, and I planted 3 different varieties of beets. And I'm trying something new this year, which is not overcrowding my plants. So usually I would space them out correctly, but then put 4 seeds in a hole and then never thin them out, and that results in horrible output. You're not going to get anywhere near what you want to get. So I went ahead and spaced these all correctly. And then, of course, my 3-year-old thought that it was really fun to run through the garden beds, literally through them. Not around them, not through the garden, through the bed. So I have footprints, tiny footprints all through this bed, which just is what it is. But I noticed today that I have a couple of things popping up. Now, unfortunately, because she was creative with the soil, I don't know if everything is where I put it. So I have a couple of things coming up in the footprints. So I am gonna guess that those are probably beets, based on where they are, but I'll show you what I've got going on. I've lied to you. This little guy made me think that I had lettuce or a beet. Instead, I just have footprints. So I could get really frustrated, right? But when it comes to the garden and it comes to children, I try to extend more grace than I want to. And there's a couple of reasons for that, actually. I want the garden to be a place where my kids feel safe, and a place that they feel like they can experiment, that they can try new things, that they can push the limits of, the areas that we let them do other things, that they can be creative, and they can really, I want them to love this space in this place. And ultimately, I want them to know that they have a place in my garden and that my garden is not off limits to them. So when something happens, like a toddler running through a freshly planted bed, I do tell them it's not right? Like, I correct them. I told her, hey, you have to be careful. There are plant babies in there. We want to protect them. We want to be gentle to the plants. But then I asked her if she wanted to help me plant. So it's one of those things where I want to make sure that I'm creating a space that is welcoming for her and all of her threeness. And it's not always pretty, and it's not always clean, and it's not always the way that I want it to be. But I want her to know that she has a place in the garden. And that's actually something I want to talk about in a little bit. But first, I want to show you a little bit of a status update on my onions and my garlic. All right, so, I put you guys really low. Let's lift you up a little bit. Okay, so my onions. I actually planted these onions in the fall, right around when I planted the garlic. So our climate is pretty mild. As you can see, they did just fine during the winter. The thought process in planting them in the fall is that they're able to be harvested in early summer. So these should be ready, I would guess, in early May. And then I'll have all this space and I can actually, I can, ate a bug. All right, I'm back. I can succession plant these, so I can actually put another round of onions in May, and then I'll be able to harvest those in early fall. Our weather gets cold, but with onions, they are okay to stay in the ground a little bit longer. So as long as they have time to bulb and enough time for that energy to kind of be isolated in the bulb, they should be okay. So this is my first year trying fall onions. Usually I had only done spring onions in the past. So I'm interested to see how these start to bulb up. They're growing really well, but I'm not seeing a ton of bulbing yet, which is to be expected. It's still pretty early in spring. I think the first day of spring was like Saturday, and it's Monday, so it's just a couple days. And our weather is just now starting to warm up. In fact, Saturday night, our low was in like the 30s. I think it was 30. So we're still getting some pretty cold temperatures. So I would expect now that the weather is warming up that these plants will start pulling all of that energy down into their roots and start to create bulbs. What I'll do with onions is I'm actually going to spoon around them. That helps you to get a more full onion. So what I'll do once I start noticing that these are bulbing, I'll just take my finger and I'll scoop the dirt around them to kind of create, it's called spoon because you could literally take a spoon and spoon around them. And that creates room for that bulb to kind of pop up a little bit out of the soil. It helps you to be able to see how big your onions are, so you're not just like guessing forever. And also it relieves the tension around them from the soil to kind of give them a little bit more freedom to grow. So as I'm checking these, I've been doing that anyways, just kind of pulling and loosening that soil around their roots. But I'm hoping here soon to see some bulbs there. Now, my garlic, and we'll go over there in just a second. Garlic is different. I'm not going to be digging around those or anything, and my garlic looks really great. So I'm hoping that I'm going to have a really wonderful garlic harvest here in the summer. But let's go take a look at it. Look at how wild this onion or these garlics are. They're doing so well, and you can kind of see how I planted them. Here, if I get past that, you can see they're all about 4 inches apart. But they're just doing so great. They're really wild. Nothing got to them. I had a couple of pests get to my onions and pull some out, but really these have stayed pretty densely planted and they look wonderful. So in just a month, I'm so excited. Can you guys believe it? I'm gonna have so much room to garden. I'm so excited. It's like walking through the garden right now and knowing that I only have 4 beds planted, but so many more are going to be planted in the next couple of weeks. It's just so exciting to me. And I know I haven't showed you guys officially since we got all of the structures done, but I did end up adding a second 24-foot bed here. So this is a 24 by 3 foot bed. I'm gonna do peppers there. I added a second. I'm gonna do peppers there as well. Kevin makes really delicious hot sauce, and he pickles a lot of peppers. So I just wanted to make sure that we have enough, that we're not like, I don't want to be rationing the banana peppers this year. And we're also gonna grow at our current house too. We just, depending on when the construction here is done, we're not sure if we're going to be moving mid-season or not. It's looking like it's going to be towards the fall, so we'll be able to harvest at both properties. But either way, we want to create a great space. So Kevin also finished up these 2 beds. They're 12-foot beds, and we're going to do arch trellises in between them. So you can kind of see from here, we're going to do 2 arch trellises between these, and then we're actually going to do a second 2 on this side into the melon and squash bed, which will be right there, and that'll be kind of like above ground, in ground. And then other than that, I'm trying not to move around too much. I don't want to make anybody car sick, but I've got these herb beds right here. These are the 3-tier beds. Let's see, there you go. These are the 3-tier beds that I built from a kit on Amazon, but I went ahead and built these, and I am going to put herbs in them. So I think I'm going to focus on perennial herbs. So I'm going to do some parsley. I think will come back in my zone. It might be reseeding, so it's not true perennial, but I'm going to do some like holy basil and things like that reseed really easily. And then I'll also do rosemary and some lavender, which obviously those are perennial. And then I've got these 3 beds, and I'm calling them my perennial beds right now. 2 of them are going to have asparagus, and 1 of them is going to have my artichoke. And I'm probably going to sprinkle some flowers in throughout as well. Okay, so coming down to this front portion of the garden, I want to talk a little bit about these beds and what's going to happen here. So I went back and forth between doing herbs in them or lettuce, and I went through a bunch of different things, but what we've landed on are 3 beds of strawberries. So those are perennial. I've read conflicting things on whether you should move them or if they're just good in the same spot year over year. But either way, we'll dedicate 3 beds to strawberries. And then the 4th bed, I think we're going to do ground cherries. We love ground cherries. I actually am going to do 2 beds of ground cherries this year. The kids love to snack on them. It's just a great kind of like fun element in the garden. It's something that's different. Not everybody grows it. And it's like a fruit that's a vegetable that's a fruit. I guess tomatoes are a fruit. So anyways, we love them. And they're just a really healthy snack. So I want to have a ton of those so the kids can come and pick whatever they want and eat them right here in the garden. All right, so of course it's gotten a little bit louder while I'm ready to sit over here and talk to you a little bit. But I did want to talk about something that I think is really important in any garden. And I'm sitting here in mine, but it's not perfect. So I want some help on ideas as well. But, one thing that I was talking about earlier that's really important to me is having a place in the garden, and having the garden be a place that is inclusive for everyone, a place that offers peace and refuge and quiet and chaos. I think the garden has such an opportunity to be all things to all people, and I didn't realize until I started gardening what value there was in really taking a front seat to creation, and the way that one seed holds everything, all of the nutrients, everything that a plant will be. And it's all in this little seed that you can hold in your hand. And just the wonder in planting that seed and watching it grow and seeing life take off. There's something like so mesmerizing to me in that, and it's so enchanting. And it's something that I think that, you know, sustainability, everything that we're so passionate about, it really like boils down to this, like having a seat at this table, having a place in this garden. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, we even do this. It's one of the reasons that, you know, I'm even here right now is, you know, first, like, yes, I want to kind of document our journey and be able to go back and watch and say, oh my gosh, like, look at where the garden was in 2021, the first year we ever grew on this land, and kind of see how that evolves and grows. But beyond that, like, I want people to know that, I want you to know that you have a place in the garden, no matter what that looks like for you, no matter what your space looks like. And of course, there's a lot going on right now. It's always when you really get into something that, you know, everybody decides to mow their lawn and ride their motorcycles down the street, and, you know. But anyways, what I was saying is that I think that there's so much value in knowing that you have a place in the garden, no matter where you are, no matter what that looks like for you, whether that means, you know, a raised bed on your balcony and like growing in a couple containers, or maybe you're growing in ground on acres, or maybe you've been gardening forever, you know, creating a space that allows you to just experience growth. And that's what the garden is to me. And so as you're creating your garden, or thinking through your plans, or, you know, starting seeds and getting out and being outside more, I want you to think about your seat in the garden, and not just you know, your seat in the garden, like what I'm talking about, like having a place in the garden and really your purpose in the garden, but like your actual seat in the garden. I think that there's something so important about that real tangible place that you have in your garden, in that space, that says not only do you belong here, but you have a space here. So I want to encourage you, if you don't have a space right now, to think through what that looks like. How do you, you know, practically, like, let's talk tactics here. How do you add a seat to your garden? Do you have a space that you can sit and watch your plants grow? And that might sound so silly, but if you've never done it, give it a try. There's something so relaxing about sitting and just watching your garden and thinking about, you know, what do you need to do? What do you want to change? But just being with the garden. You know, there's something really important about that for you. It's kind of like the way that you water your garden and help your garden grow. Sitting and being in the space is the water for you and helps you grow. And that's kind of how I see it. So right now I'm sitting on a bench that I've brought into the garden, and I'm thinking about, how do I want this space to be? What do I want? What do I want here? I know I want maybe a little table so I can take notes, so I can drink my coffee, so I can set my coffee down and forget it, because that is inevitably what I'm going to do. But I'm thinking about this space now that I've gone through the planning and the preparation, and, you know, the garden is almost ready for its plants. Now I'm making sure that I'm ready and going through the planning and the preparation for me and my space in this garden. So I want to encourage you to do the same, because when you find your seat at this table and your space in this garden, you find so much fulfillment, friends. So I'm going to encourage you to think about your seat today. Hey, girl. And now my family has arrived. How you doing? Oh, a little camera shy today. But we are going to enjoy some family time on the farm. Maybe go collect some eggs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And probably finish up a couple of these beds, adding some more compost and getting it ready. And we gotta water the lettuce, right? Yeah, you gonna help? Oh, and maybe enjoy some cuddles here in the garden as well. Thanks for joining us, friends. Until next time.